This evening is Vikas Khandelwal, who's the head of business at Shalina Healthcare. Thank you very much for making time for us. So let's just begin from the point that we've known for a long time that the healthcare sector, and by extension, the global healthcare sector, has seen tremendous changes over the past few years. And let's put those years between the years of 2018 to about 2024. Heavily characterized by the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the Ukraine and Russia war that affected logistical concerns. On your end, what have you seen in terms of having to just adapt with these changes that have come over the past couple of years?
So, good evening, Alan. Yeah. And first of all, thank you for having me on your TV channel. My name is Vikas Khandelwal. I had the business for Shalina Healthcare in Kenya and East Africa. It's a very, I would say, apparent question which you are asking about, the counterfeit as well as what Shalina Healthcare has done over the years in terms of access to pharmaceutical as well as the consumer products which we have launched over the years. Yeah. So I would like to take you maybe back to 40 years, right from when we started our journey in Africa, sub-Saharan continent. So we started with Democratic Republic of Congo, wherein in 1984 we started our operations, and now we are directly present in almost 21 countries across sub-Saharan Africa. Mm-hmm. The Kenyan story and East African story actually started a bit late. We were a little restless about how we will become, a force to reckon with in these markets after we have already been showcased our number one position in most of the markets, such as in the West Africa, like Ghana, Nigeria, Zambia, as well as Democratic Republic of Congo, where we are number one. In Angola, we are number one. Mm-hmm. So then this restlessness ends in 2018 when we started our first acquisition in 2018, typical pharmaceutical acquisition with 18 brands. We took over from a company called as Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Company. Yeah. And from there onwards, we actually launched our global brands of Shalina in Kenya markets. Okay. And that's where we looked into how the access of pharmaceuticals as well as other products has been there in Kenyan market. As you rightly mentioned about the issues about the counterfeits, issues about accessibility, and we firmly believe, as we are a vertically integrated organization, that we actually have our own manufacturing plant, and then we have our state-of-art warehousing, supply chain management, wherein the last mile reach to the retailer or maybe to the dukas which are available or the kiosks which are available across the country for the consumer brands, we are available there with them. With this 2018, we never stopped there, after this acquisition. There was again a little restlessness how we become, the leaders in terms of the consumer segment. So then the picture came about, the acquisition of another company, which is known as Orange Pharma in Kenya. And then the likes of Kaluma, Sonamoja, and all of these brands became ours last year when we had a full acquisition for Orange Pharma. Yeah.
Well, you've talked of the consumer market, and I'd love to come in on that perspective. When you're talking about the consumer market, of course, we've witnessed tremendous changes in terms of innovation. And when you talk about innovation, it's characterized by access to probably digital platforms, and technology plays a very integral part. Having your operations in a developing country and a market that is not necessarily accessible to many people in terms of the technology, looking at the people in rural demographics, how have you been able to innovate and still stay at par?
Yeah, so just to tell Alan that we have a state-of-art R&D center which actually supports us in terms of the quality of the pharmaceutical as well as all the consumer brands, and most of our consumer brands are currently being now imported from South Africa. So we are very aptly, I would say, leveraging on the technology in terms of how we want to supply and how we want to actually lessen the turnaround time, looking into the nook and corner of our nation. If you look into our nation, right from the last lane in Busia, or maybe a square in maybe Garissa, or probably if you go to the coastal region, probably in Ukunda or Voi, or maybe in the mountain region, we really leverage technology in terms of how our invoicing system will enable our team as well as the customers who really wants our medicine within probably 12 hours of time or 24 hours of time. We are heavily investing in terms of our depot management. that how certainly we can actually be accessible and lessen this turnaround time in the times to come.
Okay, and what would you say has been a key challenge that you've picked up ever since you started leveraging on this technology to see that you penetrate the market more?
So initially, Alan, talent attraction has been a little, I would say, a cumbersome task in terms of, because we were lesser known in Kenya and East African side, as we were more known in the West African and the Central African side. But then down the line, as we grew, people recognized the strength and the muscle power of Shalina Healthcare. We could attract good talent in terms of the regulatory finance aspect, in terms of the marketing or the sales people down the line, which we have. So if I can just give you an example, the challenge initially was to how to hire the right talent with the right department. And we started with very humbly with 12 people in our office. And currently, we give employment to more than 200 people, which directly or indirectly actually encourages the local manpower's encouragement to our country. So this is something which has given us a lot of, I would say, inertia in our growth over the years.
All right. Now you've talked of expansion and acquisition. Naturally, when somebody hears the word acquisition, there's this sort of myth that comes into their mind that this was a product that was dropped by a previous company. And probably when you talk of acquisitions, it could be partnerships and all that sort of discussions towards the positive side. Now, in terms of what you've been able to do in terms of acquisition with these other brands, you've said it has helped you with market penetration. In terms of market penetration, could you just break it down on how the acquisition and partnerships has assisted you to penetrate the market better?
See, when it is acquisition, we have not just done the acquisition just for the sake of it. So we have looked into very strategically that whether this will complement us, synergize our portfolio. So that's where, these products like Kaluma, Sonamoja, Shaggy, and, now we are launching our very, very ambitious brand very soon. So that's where I think the synergistic approach has really helped us reaching the market because the products are needed, they are demanded. So like Kaluma is such a brand which is almost, I would say 98 years old brand. So it's a household brand. So people were really wanting this from the word go. And that's where I think it has given us a lot of impetus in terms of what we wanted to do for the customers at large. So our marketing strategies, our innovation regarding the packaging development, our pricing, right pricing, because we believe that quality is inherent. Quality any company will give, but quality striked with the right affordable price to the consumer, to the end consumer, actually makes a difference between what we want to really, give as a service to the consumers.
Of course, we can't end this discussion without talking about standards. But just before we talk about the quality of the standards, let's talk about this OTC, which is over-the-counter sort of medication. We know very well, as a country, we don't necessarily have stringent policies that guide this. I can literally just walk to a shop or a pharmacy and get any sort of medication that I'm looking towards. When you're looking at your products and probably dispensing them out to different markets, how then do you control and sit with that thin line between somebody accessing medication that they shouldn't access is controlled?
See, you're rightly saying this, that there's a very thin line in terms of what needs to be regulated and what needs to be, regarded as over the counter. So we are doing a bit in terms of all the training programs, all the, I would say, our channel partners, giving them right, adequate knowledge about what is OTC and what is not OTC in terms of the formulation. Very closely, we are trying to, work with the board, the regulator here, so that the right information is imparted in terms of the self-medication, so that there is no overdose to the end consumer in terms of what is required, because most of the times it is very easy to take paracetamol 2 tablets, but then the end consumer most of the time doesn't know what are the implications, the side effects of taking little higher dose in terms of what is to be done. So we do a lot of kind of, I would say, partnership programs with our stakeholders in terms of teaching them, educating them with the right knowledge of over-the-counter drugs. We have invested heavily in terms of our inbuilt training center in our offices, so that we can actually partners digitally, even with the webinars, who we can actually give this information live to the larger society. Okay.
Still on the same, but let's just probably get to this end of KEBS, which is the regulating factor, to see that we have this quality sort of goods that are dispensed into the market. We've seen other companies, not necessarily pharmaceuticals, but generally other companies get into problems with KEBS in terms of ascertaining how this product is real, this product is not real. So in terms of a farmer and looking at this being a very critical sort of industry within a developing nation that doesn't necessarily have those laws, what's the relationship with KEBS, and how then do you ascertain to your consumers that the KEBS sticker on your products is actually what is supposed to be given by KEBS?
So we don't we are a very straight line in this.
Yeah.
So we don't try to actually even ask questions about that what should be done and what should not be done when it comes to the bureau standards in terms of what is required. We, as I said, we work very closely with the regulator. So if it is a farmer product, it has to be regulated to the poison board, and if it is a consumer product, it comes through the KEBS, and then we adhere to all the norms of giving the compliances to the customer, which are adequately governed by KEBS. Yeah.
All right, Vikas, I believe you have an upcoming event this Friday as well. Best of luck with that. But thank you very much for making time for us this evening and sharing your insights on the same. That was Vikas Khandelwal, the VP and business head at Shalina Healthcare Limited, basically telling you what the company has been able to do and how they've been able to maneuver this critical and very tricky sort of industry when it comes to dispensing medication to the citizens, ensuring that they actually get the best of quality of products. We want to take another short break at this point, but of course, we'll be back with more in a short while. Yeah.